This is the golf counter. You can turn it on and off via the slide switch. You can add a stroke with one of the push buttons. You can subtract a stroke with one of the push buttons. And once you're done the hole, you can go on to the next by changing the hole number, keeping your total stroke number, and setting the strokes on hole to 0 since you're on a new hole. And finally, you can reset everything once you're done your round. The main idea of the golf counter is button inputs. As you can see with the 3 buttons right here, they can either add a stroke, subtract a stroke, or go on to the next hole. But that can only be done with the functions in my code and giving one of these digital pins a high. With the reset button, the only way to reset everything is giving the reset pin a low. With the slide switch, it turns it on or off. But this can only be done if it's turned left to turn it on and turned right to turn it off like it is now. Now let's go on to the code with the main ideas done. So here's the code, and due to time constraint, I'll only be focusing on the key parts. So firstly, I have 3 pins that I define basically for the push buttons. Here I have the values for the LCD, and then right here that I want to display, of course, and then I have the values for the push buttons to see if they're high or low. Here I'm just setting up the LCD, and I'm also setting the pins for the push buttons to output so I can use them in my code. In the void loop, I'm reading all of the buttons first to see if they're high. If they are high, let's say the add one, then it's gonna add one value to the total strokes and strokes on hole of their values. And then for subtract one, if the subtract one was high, the digital pin from the push button, then it's going to subtract one from total strokes and strokes on hole for their values. And then lastly, for the next button, if the digital pin for the next was high, then it's going to add one to the hole, and it's going to set hole strokes on hole to 0. And for all of these, it's putting in the exact same spot as it is for the setup, and the delay is 1 second just because I wasn't able to get the bounce working. So I believe my user will only be touching the button for 1 second. Thank you for listening. Hopefully you learned something. Goodbye.